Hello, everybody. Welcome. I never know what to say at the start of these videos. This is actually really weird for me. For anyone who's been paying attention, which is probably nobody, but I've been putting out videos every week, but I'm making them in spurts where I'll make like 3 and then put them all out and schedule them. So for me, in real world time, it's been like 3 weeks since I made a video, so I feel very strange. I hope everyone's doing well, enjoying the very strange life that's extending over from 2020. I got a new plant, if anyone wants to see. I don't care, I'm gonna show you. It's a little thing, I forget what it's called. I bought it, and the person at the stupid garden center was like, I don't know what that is. And it was just marked as foliage, which like, yeah, I guess that's technically true. I did find online what it is. You can see when I'm holding this plant just how wired I am with coffee. It's like shaking like crazy. Holy smokes. Somebody comment what I should name him or her or them, because I haven't named them yet. Okay, what am I doing here again? Oh yeah, so I want to talk about why Melodrama by Lorde is perhaps underrated. He's not talking about books? What? What? Show me on the channel title where it says Alex talks about books. Show me, is that the channel name? No, it's Notes by Alex, which I picked that name because it leaves it free to just talk about whatever I want. And if you don't like it, please stay, please. We'll see how this goes. I feel like music reviews can get very analytical and very like detailed and insightful, and I'm just not that. This is just gonna be me gushing about an album, I guess. Why do I think Melodrama by Lorde is underrated? Kind of a weird thing to say. I mean, it did very well. Here, I'm gonna look up the awards it got. First #1 album in the United States, first #1 in Canada. That doesn't actually mean much. There's actually only 12 people in Canada. Best received albums of 2017. It got a lot of awards. It did fairly well. Why would I say that it's underrated? That's kind of a whack thing to say. Because I feel like when it came out, I was obsessed with it, and I still am. It's still one of my favorite albums, probably of all time. And like everyone I talk to about it is like, yeah, I don't really listen to Lorde. I don't know. I guess it's like you look at the objective data and it's like she sold a bunch, she won a bunch of awards, but then anecdotally, like everyone I talk to is just like not really listened to her second album. It seems like everybody got kind of burnt out on Royals. Like her first album, Pure Heroine, was overplayed so much. And I'm in the same boat with everybody. Like I didn't give her first album too much attention because I didn't have to. I just, by virtue of turning on a radio, heard all of her songs so much. And by the time I finally listened to Pure Heroine, I was like, I actually know like most of these songs. And this is as someone who was fine with her before, like just didn't really obsess over her music, but heard Royals on the radio and thought it was really good and just didn't think much else of it. But I was blown away. I love Melodrama. It's such a good album. And I feel like people expect that her second album will be like Pure Heroine, like similar kind of style. And it's just not like at all. I'm going to try to speak with some level of analysis about her first album. And I can't, but we'll see what happens. I apologize. I mean, she was like 16 or something when it came out, and it was about being a 16-year-old. It was very real. It was about how she's not this rich, famous, glamorous pop star. She's just a teenager, and just very normal kid kind of themes to that album as far as I remember. And it was a style of pop that is very, I don't know, hip hop inspired, simple but effective production. Like Royals, there's not a lot going on instrumentally in that track, but it's very catchy. The bass takes up more space in the mix because there's less going on. And it's a style of pop that has influenced people since. I mean, I feel like to some extent, Billie Eilish is doing something similar, not the same, but influenced by her almost indisputably. But her second album, Lorde's second album, Melodrama, is not more of the same. She went in a completely different direction. It's like musical, like a musical theater show. It's concept album-ish, I guess. It's very show tunesy. It's boisterous. It's like Elton John or kind of power ballady. None of this makes any sense, and it's probably all wrong. That Anthony Fantano just thinks I'm a hack fraud, and he's correct. But there's a level of songwriting and production to Melodrama that is mature and beyond anything on her first album, in my opinion. The second album is still written from a fairly young perspective. I think she was like early 20s when it was written and when it came out. It is about heartbreak and the melodrama, but the misery of your first love and the ensuing breakup. And it's also kind of about the partying, the hedonistic perspective that we take on as young adults that is based in a feeling of meaninglessness. So much of the album is very like from the perspective of a 20-year-old who like is so sad about what's going on in their life and feels they're not doing anything right. So they party to forget and have a good time. But then they wake up and they're back in the same situation. And there's that level of questioning of like, what am I even doing? Is this what life is supposed to be for someone my age? The start of the album is very party, party, party. This is great. We're all having such a good time. This is living. And then it gets to the point where she's singing about first love and the intensity of that. And just, yeah. Yeah. The track, The Louvre, everything about that song exudes the intensity of young love. The song somehow sounds like summer, which that's not a sentence that means anything. You just have to listen to it. And it's like, this sounds like a summer where you're young and kind of carefree and you're meeting people and partying and you meet someone who you really, really care deeply about. The chorus has these anthemic chanting, like her voice just rushing through the headphones. You can hear her thrill about this guy. The drums are like kind of charging. Like the first words of the chorus are a rush at the beginning. And it's describing, the rush of meeting someone and infatuation. And the song reflects that in its songwriting and its production like so well. But yeah, the song, you're almost secondhand in love with someone from it. Like you feel the thrill of meeting someone and thinking they're your person and just becoming kind of obsessive with them. The Louvre is like so immaculately produced and intense. It's immediately followed by Liability, which is just Lorde singing at a piano. Like there's just the piano and her voice. And she's talking about how now this guy that she spent a summer falling in love with is telling her that she's a bit much. She's a liability. But she is very self-reflective. She admits, I'm pretty intense. And she says she's hard to please. But she feels like all of the appeal of her as a person is this intensity that people enjoy until it becomes too much. You almost get a sense that she's wondering, like, am I just geared for this kind of quick passion and then getting dumped? It's very sad. And then it's immediately followed by a song called Hard Feelings / Loveless. Hard Feelings and Loveless are really two songs, but they're just in the same like track. One fades into the other. Hard Feelings may be the greatest song ever written. I love this song, especially in the greater context of the whole album. It's just about the feelings immediately following a breakup, trying to move on and do things for yourself and self-care, but also just struggling with this feeling of drowning. I also just think the production on this song is like perfect. All of the instrumentation is, they've put what's called a low pass filter on it. Maybe I'll put one. So this is my voice without a low pass filter. And then this is what it sounds like with a low pass filter on. It just means all the lower frequencies are coming through, but it kind of muffles everything. It kind of sounds like you're underwater and hearing a party. Or in the case of this song, it kind of sounds like she's gone into another room of a party and she's grieving this breakup and everything is going on in the other room. So you get a sense of place where she, physical place as well. Oh, geez, this is really going just terrible. It feels like the physical place she is where she is reflecting on all of this, on her breakup, but it's also feels like how she is in her own mind. Like everything going on is subdued and muffled because she's just focusing on what just happened with the breakup of her first love. I hope that makes sense. It probably doesn't. One day I will write a script to one of these videos, but not today. Anyways, the last half of the album really feels like the party's over. The party being her young love is done, and also just the thrill of being a young woman and getting wasted and hanging out with friends to kind of muffle the kind of misery of existence. That was all fun for a couple hours, but now she's woken up in the morning and the room is littered with cans and it smells like stale beer and you're alone with your thoughts again. And the second half of the album very much feels like that. She does get to the point where she has some revelations about the young life she has lived so far. In Liability Reprise, she sings, "You're not what you thought you were," which that's a sentiment that I think lots of people go through in their early 20s. The party of being a teenager is over and you're becoming an adult now. And maybe everything you identified with as a young person, maybe that's not who you are. Maybe it's things you have been, but it's not you. I mean, to me, when she's singing it, it sounds kind of melancholy, like I'm really not the person who I thought I was. But maybe that's me identifying with it because I was going through something like that when I was in my early 20s. Some people read into it as like a hopeful thing, like I'm not who I thought I was. I can be more than just being a liability and being intense for people and then breaking up and getting messed up and feeling miserable. She starts to also, I suppose, realize her strengths as a person, which as a side note is amazing that Lorde is writing an album about her own insecurities and sense of inadequacy when she was like a multi-million selling super popular pop star at like 16 or 17. Like people go through it. I didn't look too much into the preceding like production and ideas and thought process behind the album, but I remember hearing somewhere that she initially wanted to write an album about how she became famous like that and what that did to her. And then she changed it more to like just being a young adult. And it's amazing that she's writing about things that she's still going through as someone who's very well off in terms of, fame and fortune. But it's all very human things that lots of people go through. It's an album that I think a lot of people can identify with. The end of the album, she starts to reflect on the breakup and begins to get a sense of gratitude for it. Like it happened and she remembers the good of it. It's on the song Supercut, where she imagines a supercut of us, her and the guy that broke up with her. So she remembers the good of the relationship and is glad it happened to an extent. And then Perfect Places is the closer of the album, and it's kind of restating all the themes of young love and heartbreak and hedonism that comes with being young and feeling lost and kind of meaningless. And the production on this track sounds like the closer of a musical. Like the chorus is chanted by many, many voices, and it feels like the whole production team's coming on stage and taking a big bow. It's very grandiose. It's very over the top, but it's pulled off because the whole album, the production's immaculate, and there are those parts of the album where everything gets reined in and it's just her and a piano and she's introspective and I can't explain it. I'm not good at this. Just go listen to it. Go listen to it all the way through. From start to finish is the best way to experience this album. I'm going to be fair and like play devil's advocate here. This album came out when I was, I think, 23, and it was kind of at the tail end of when I was done experiencing all these intense young adult things that she talks about. So I don't know, maybe someone who's like 40 and has a wife and kids is going to listen to this and think, wow, she's just a kid and she's worried about kid stuff. I don't know. But for me, like, there's a lot that she talks about on this album that resonated with me. And even now, when I'm a little older and my problems are very different, I can think back to a time of my life where I was worried about a lot of the very same things. And I don't know, there's something very nostalgic about this album for me now. I'm not necessarily saying that everybody's going to like this album or that they have to like this album, because there's no music on earth that everybody has to like, except for Every Time We Touch by Cascada. That song is an absolute ripper and everyone has to like it. But what I am saying is that this album is much more than just a follow-up to Pure Heroine by Lorde. It is more Lorde. It's still her, but you can tell she's grown as an artist, she's grown as a person, and she's entered artistic territory that is way more than it was on her first album. And like, I don't feel that she gets enough credit for that. I feel like when I initially told people about this album when it came out back in 2017, people were like, well, I don't really like Lorde. And like, fair enough, but I still think it's worth listening to. Like, it's also not a very long album, so give it a listen and Sorry if I've wasted like 40 minutes of your time. As an achievement in pop music, I feel like this is way more mature and ambitious than people give it credit for. That's all I have to say. If you made it to here, thank you for sticking with me talking about music instead of books. This was really fun, and I'd like to, talk about other things in the future. I'd like to talk about more music or movies maybe. Hopefully I've convinced you to give this album a listen. Feel free to disagree with me. That's fair. Thank you all for watching. I do have more book reviews on the way, more stuff, more life. I hope you all have excellent days and take care. I really can't start or end videos at all, but hopefully the middle's okay. Yeah.